Welcome to another live stream, Legends. I just want to go over Bitcoin. I want to go over several different time frames. I want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Honestly, right now, I can see things. I can see arguments for basically the bulls and the bears at this point. Yes, I am saying that it could go either direction. I'll go over a couple of the trade setup positions that I'm currently in. And just kind of my overall view of the market, the infamous Stuber fibs, etc., etc. Those of you live with me here right now, if you ever want me to check out any altcoins or whatever, just let me know what time frame you're kind of looking at, just because everyone trades different time frames, obviously. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. We're going to start at the 4 hour because that's kind of everyone's favorite on average. Nothing has changed here, you guys. I know that everybody wants to feel very bullish right now, but it's very natural to feel bullish and think that the price looks strongest as we're trading into resistance. I have been warning about this level for about a week and a half now. The thing is, I will give credit to the bulls here. The fact that we've tested the 786 on the 4 hour so many times, one of these times we may end up blasting past it. But as it stands right now, it is still resistance. We were waiting for this for over a week in advance. And you know what? Just as a little bit of additional confluence, the ALGO master indicator here, I have the auto Stuber fibs on, and it agrees with my fib setup perfectly. And I love having that as confluence, basically. So on top of that, just again, the structure of this chart has not changed for such a long time. They're just really, since January, we've been in a nasty downtrend. So the trend is your friend until the end. And as it stands right now, the lower high is still up around 89K, actually about 88.8K on the BloFin chart, at least, up here. Because looking at basic structure, here's where we have a low and we have a slightly lower low here. So that means the highest point between the two is my confirmed lower high, right? At that point, when we were trading up here, I didn't know it was a lower high for sure until we get that structure confirmation. Now it is confirmed. So after sweeping those lows, it makes perfect sense to get some sort of a reaction. You guys know this is the same thing I look at on the 5 minute or the 1 minute. When structure breaks, that's when I pull my Fibonacci's to look for that Fibonacci retracement, right? That's what the tool is designed for, looking for those retracements. I personally like to play the retracements after structure has broken in a certain direction, because at that point there's more of a possibility of the trend continuing that direction. And that's where, like I was saying before the stream here to you guys, I like to leave part of my position run. Generally, I like to play the range first, but I love to catch a running position if given the opportunity. And that's why I play Stuber fibs the way I do, is because, I'm looking to take profits at my first targets to play the range. And from there, I'm hoping to catch a bigger downside move because we have a series of lower lows, lower lows, lower low. So there's potential for that trend to continue basically until we end up breaking a lower high. That is basically what I'm waiting for until I turn bullish. I just think it makes a lot more sense to be looking for short opportunities, basically anywhere from here up to 91K, I think is fair game for some sort of a big bearish rejection. Obviously, yes, that is a big range. That is coming at you from more of a swing trader's approach, right? Like, I personally do more scalping. I like to trade the shorter time frames and trade both directions, whatever. But as far as people actually looking to trade the 4 hour for what it is and looking for an actual trade setup on, more reasonable leverage, not the scalping type of leverage, this is basically the level where I would expect, if the downtrend is going to continue, basically the bears have this whole range to step in, because we are now at the 786. We have the 886 resistance above that. We have the double top level, and also that little bit of wiggle room for the fake out that I allow for with Stuber fibs, and that would call for a perfect swing fail, right? That leaves a little wiggle room for if you're going to get some sort of a liquidity grab, something like that. Obviously, everyone has their own ways that they like to trade things. If your risk tolerance is a little lower and you're looking at more of a swing fail setup where you can get your average entry a lot closer to your stop loss, right? But as it stands right now, just basically a week and a half ago when we were trading down here, actually, That's where I was saying that, hey, we swept the lows. At this point, I would be expecting serious resistance basically between 86 and 89K. Or was it, about, call it 85.7 up to 87.2. Somewhere in there would be very heavy resistance. And then there's also just that wiggle room to the upside, like I said, all the way up to 91K basically. Once that trend is broken, that's where I can consider being more aggressively looking for longs rather than shorts, right? It's the thing is, there's a good chance, you know, a lot of people are trying to long into this level, long into resistance. The thing is, if the market is going to play out bullishly from here, there's a good chance I can get into a long at very close to these levels, even if we get some sort of bullish confirmation first, rather than just hoping on a prayer that we are going to break out through resistance, right? Because there's a good chance that if we end up breaking through this resistance and setting a higher high, invalidating that Stuber fib, there's an excellent chance we do something like that before carrying on to the upside. Whereas playing the downside right now from these levels, you know, it's very likely that we get a retest down towards these levels, if not lower, right? It depends if the downtrend is going to continue from here or not. Like I said, I see reasons for both. If I hop over to the weekly chart, I know this is one on everybody's radar. A lot of people have told me my RSI trend line has broken. I don't agree with that statement personally. We are above it right now, but we did not close this candle here, right? We still have 3 full days before this candle closes, and we have had this happen 2 or 3 times at this point where we have looked like we were breaking the trend line up here. But as the week went on further and we got rejected, it just ended up curling to the downside. So it's still premature to say that we have broke that, because where this candle closed right here, you can see it's not actually above the trend line there. It's actually bang on. And that's exactly what we had happening up here. So it's a little bit early. I will say this, the fact that we even closed this candle green here and we ended up holding this support box that I have here, that is nice to see. You know, we have that little bit of a liquidity grab there, so we technically did already get that swing fail, and it makes sense to get a bullish play from there. I 100% agree with that statement. Here's the part that gets me, is that, let me actually just remove this support box here. Although I agree that is a bullish reversal for the range that I'm considering is where I have this Fibonacci pulled right now, because again, micro analyzing, but that's how I look at the immediate trend that we are on. This is our low, and we actually went a little bit lower after a bounce, right? So with that information right there, pulling it just like a typical Stuber fib setup, I would be pulling from the highest point between our low and our lower low, which would be here. We have got back up into that Stuber fib pocket. That's the same one on the 4 hour. This is just looking at it on the weekly, and that the structure is technically the same, right? The fact that we are having a hard time closing a candle above that 786, to me, it looks like we're getting rejected at that level. So we're going to have to see what happens in the next 3 days. Honestly, the weekly at this point can go either way for me. Because if we end up just getting rejected off this line again by the time the candle closes, I am going to remain quite heavily bearish at that point. If we close this candle something like this and we're above this trend line, I'll at least consider the possibility that, you know, there's at least some strength with the bulls, right? At that point, I am open to the idea of a bounce to the upside, like an actual nice big one. I don't necessarily think it means new all-time highs, but I do think that that would call for a nice big move. I mean, to me, market structure first over indicators like that. So, I mean, I would still want to see some sort of a bullish confirmation on the 4 hour, which we unfortunately don't have yet. But yeah, we're going to have to see what happens. I think Sunday's candle close is going to be an important one. Here's where my main concern is at this point, you guys, is the monthly chart still. I know this is probably looking very familiar and probably boring to a lot of you at this point, but I think it's important to bring up is that every time we've had an order block on the monthly break like this, we've always ended up flipping it, doing an SR flip, right? So here, this would have been the last time the bulls tried to push before pushing to new lows here for that bear market. Look what happens when we ended up reclaiming that level, right? We flipped that. So down here, we ended up losing that. We end up getting back above that level, and it was off to the races. Same thing with back here at this bear market. Yes, during COVID, we wicked below, but the candle bodies actually held it perfectly, so it was not broken either. Same thing, right? Big move to the upside. What we had at the start of this cycle, same thing, right? We have that same block. We pushed lower. That was the last time. After we reclaimed that, we even grabbed it perfectly. Look at that wick there. Filled that block perfectly and carried on to the upside there. Same thing on the bear market. This was the only time that it's ever happened on a bearish break on the monthly, and obviously that flipped to resistance and it was to the downside from there. That is a major concern of mine, that the monthly has this, because every other time it's happened, it has been a full-on market reversal, basically. Not that it has to happen again, but it's there, and just showing you some examples of it happening there. And the fact that we lost this level, something right here, we have not lost something like that. I know a lot of people think that this structure feels like this structure. It's very different. It's similar in price range size, but the structure of how it formed is actually different, and that does make a difference. So until we can reclaim that, I have my very serious concerns about the monthly chart, and that's just the structure, you guys. When I go into the MDX ALGO Wave Master, every time we've got a cross on this monthly momentum indicator, it has been a full-on reversal. And I mean, you can see how that has played out, right? Let me just show where it has happened in the past. Oh, let me make that red here. But just notice where these crosses have happened. And this cross here that we got, this bearish one, has really only happened about 2 weeks ago. So I know a lot of people think, oh, whatever, the bear market's probably almost over if this is even it. Understand where the confirmation happened on the momentum indicator was very recent. It was at the start of this month. So again, not that it has to play out perfectly. There's not a ton of data because this hasn't happened very many times yet in Bitcoin's history. But every time it's happened, it's been a perfect reversal. Our bearish one here, this is where it was confirmed bearish. That would have been, yeah, well, I have my vertical lines matching up, right? The bullish ones too. Yeah, just all of them. They've been perfect. And like I said, we had that confirmed bearish cross at the last monthly candle close. So that is 2 big points for not just a pullback, but a full-on bear market. Those are 2 very strong points for that. And again, I'm not saying it has to be, but previously speaking, and that's what we do with charts, right? We kind of look back at how price action has been respected in the past. Those are 2 very strong bits of signs for me, basically. The trend dynamic indicator. This one, we're going to have to see. This has only happened one other time on the monthly charts history, but it is something that I have traded this strategy on the 1 minute and the 5 minute and the 4 hour. It was actually one of the first trading strategies that I formed with these indicators when I came here almost 3 years ago. Looking for these reversal warnings to change direction, just like with the Trend Master when I look for trending buy and sell signals. So these W's are reversal warnings, and I like to pay attention to which way they're going. So again, guys, as I'm throwing these out there, understand that generally speaking, I'm a market structure first, always market structure first. I like to look at indicators for confluence, for a second opinion, just to back up my theory, basically. Or also using indicators to show when maybe I'm not looking at things right, or I should ignore the structure temporarily, maybe take caution, et cetera, because a lot of people try and use indicators to force more trades. Understand that I think that quite often what indicators can also be used for is things like risk management, when to avoid taking trades just because there's higher risk there, or downsize positions, or take profits, you know, all those sorts of things as well. But yeah, that's a big signal right there. The fact that they went from trending to the upside, obviously higher reversal warning, higher reversal warning, higher reversal warning, higher, and then a lower one here. right? So just potentially laying out a bit of a shift in the trend. The only other time that happened was this bear market, the start of this bear market back here. That was in 2013, 2014, I guess, is when it printed. So again, that hasn't happened very many times, obviously, so take it for what it is. It's just another red flag for me. So this monthly chart looks atrocious to me. It looks very bad. And that's one thing that's making me have a hard time becoming a moon boy again at this point. But again, as soon as structure starts breaking to the upside, even on the 4 hour, I'm at least willing to be open to the idea of we get some sort of a bounce, right? And a good bounce, not like one that we've had so far, but I think the kind of bounce that drives crazy FOMO as we get near all-time highs and then see a harsh rejection from somewhere up there. But as it stands right now, I mean, resistance is resistance until it's broken. And we are basically just at the start of resistance, in my opinion. Many of these bounces along the trend to the downside have not been able to even get up to the 786. So this is one of the stronger bounces that we've seen. I will give it that 100%, but the structure has not broken, you know. Yeah, we had, I can't remember what day it was it here? We had, you know, terrible selling off. Then we had this massive pump and, oh, everyone was all excited. It was a record-breaking day in the markets. We never even broke any structure, though. This was not a break of a lower high for me, because after this lower low, we never set another lower low from that. So my lower high was still up here, right? We never even got close to that. Even at this point, we're still a ways away from that. We are, well, 85K up towards, yeah, we're like damn near, well, $4,000 away from the lower high still. So there is plenty of resistance in the way. So Bitcoin's got a lot of work to do no matter how you look at it. Again, it's looking stronger than it has on other rallies, but there's just a lot of work to be done is all. Invert the chart and it looks simple. Yeah, so that's the thing too, right? If you are constantly having a hard time, you know, being stuck in a certain mindset, try inverting the chart and see if it affects your analysis. I have a very structured way that I look at structure, so I don't really, these days, I feel like I don't really have to invert it. But yeah, if that is what helps people, it's definitely, here, let's invert this here. Yeah, we invert it, and that's a bullish Stuber fib right there. MDX ALGO agrees with it. So again, yeah, maybe the bears, maybe the bulls do end up breaking through this resistance. And like I said, at that point, the only thing that's going to change, like the thing is, it's not like I sold all my crypto or anything like that. It's just that I'm favoring trading the downside more than the upside. That's really the only thing that this bearish stance has me doing. Like, I still love crypto. I'm still very bullish on crypto long term. But as far as trading and making money as a trader, I don't really care which direction it goes. I've just been favoring the downside because that's just the direction that the trend has been going since January 20th. And the fact that I've mentioned in pro signals, I was warning about this, you guys. It was December 23rd. I was warning, where was it? Yeah, it was right here. I was warning that the RSI really looked like it was going to set up for this bearish divergence that I love to trade. And with that often goes a double top. So December 23rd, I called for a double top with this strategy, and just look how well that lined up. Double top with that bearish divergence there. It was the perfect bearish setup. That's literally my perfect bearish trade setup out there. So to see it on the weekly and everyone was telling me how wrong I was, it just didn't make sense to me that if we had this much less strength in the market and we couldn't break that resistance at this point when we had this much strength, why would we have broke the same resistance with significantly less strength on the RSI, right? Relative strength index. So that's a good way of looking at that divergence. And then it was, when was it? Later, I think it was early January. I want to say January 7th. I know I mentioned in Pro Signals that I was expecting basically a Stuber fib pump into Trump's inauguration and seeing a top there, and it played out absolutely perfectly. We went slightly higher, but we never did invalidate it. We never went past the 115, anything like that. So I'm actually it's still in a quarter of a short from 101.6k. That was when everyone got mega bullish again because we had a crazy day in the markets, crazy rally. And as soon as the 5-minute trend shifted, I took a head short and I'm still in a quarter of that position. That's 2 months. Yeah, start of February, 2.5 months. That's a crazy amount of time for me to be in a trade because I usually close them quickly. But yeah, that's basically what led me to be bearish. And since the structure has not changed at all, that's the only reason I'm still bearish, is because ever since I started my bearish theories from the top, nothing has changed. When something changes, then my opinion will change too. Just like it did at the top, right? I was still a moon boy at the top until I noticed that signal. And even when I first pointed out that that weekly double top bearish divergence back at the end of December, when I was talking about that, I was kind of joking about it. And like I didn't even really it was one of those things where it was looking like it could set up for it, although I didn't think it was going to. It did happen, and therefore, hey, it was something that I threw out there into the universe kind of as a joke. Here it is. Well, I can't ignore it now because it's valid. Just because I threw it out there as a joke and didn't think it would happen, well, it did happen. So we were very ready for this, you guys. Those of you guys who have been in my streams ever since, those of you who have been in my Financial Summit streams, just wherever I'm streaming, I've been warning about this trend ever since. But yeah, eventually I'm going to be wrong, guys, right? Eventually the downtrend will break, and that's fine. Like I said, at that point, I start longing pullbacks instead. I start looking for bullish Stubers a lot more aggressively than I'm looking for bearish Stubers at that point. But for now, it's very much the opposite. This one, I know I had actually pointed this out yesterday, but then again this morning that we had this bearish Stuber here. Actually ended up getting the play once, right? I ended up getting a short from my 786, hit my first 2 take profits, rest got stopped out at break even. Just happened to look at the charts again when we were trading between the 886 and the 1, so I just ended up shorting it again with a stop loss up here. And yeah, whatever, I've downsized a little bit of it because we were very close to my 0.5, and from here we just see what happens. Generally speaking, I only like to take the first trade off these levels, but again, just since I am leaning towards a potential very large bearish move in the near future, possibly, right? Doesn't have to happen, but possibly. Yeah, I'm just basically looking for bearish Stuber shorts still and hoping that part of a position runs. But yeah, I've got several shorts open at this point. This one from up here, like I was talking about, still have the one just a little bit higher, came very close to getting stopped at break even because I took that guy back here. That was based off the 4 hour, again, just playing the 786. So I got that, and like I said, from 101, that chart's hard to find it. But yeah, 101.626 is my top one. So, and also FARTCOIN. I forgot that I opened 3 shorts at this level because like I was talking about with some of the trending indicators I like to use, notice that we had lower buy signal and lower sell signal on the Trendmaster indicator. So when we started testing this, I noticed it while we were trading right around here, and I thought, you know what? I can enter some shorts right here with stop loss above this structure here. Nice tight stop loss. Hopefully the trend continues. I ended up closing one of the 3 right before starting this stream just to make sure that I locked something in. And plus, I was just thinking, you know what? There is the chance that we see some sort of a fib pull support. I wasn't bullish on this. It's something that I was willing to acknowledge as potential support. But guys, this is not actually a Stuber fib right here. I want to be clear about that because there was no lower high that was actually broken, right? Because at this point, well, basically this would have been our bounce. So this would have been our low. And since we never ended up breaking that, we never did break. I mean, this would have been our lower high. So we never got anywhere near that. So this wasn't an actual bullish Stuber fib to take a long position on something like that. It's still always possible that you're going to find support there. It is a support level. Just that it's not an actual Stuber fib setup is all, right? Right now, I guess just micro-analyzing the 5-minute, like I just said, we have a low here, lower low. That means this is our lower high. So as far as looking for a scalp setup, we could be looking at something like that, right? So we might actually retrace back up to where my average entries are. Or not average entries. Basically, I took all 3 of them at the same time, basically. But yeah, that would be basically a current Stuber fib setup on the 5-minute. So I'd be looking at laddering in something like this. A stop loss just above this somewhere. Again, I leave a little wiggle room past that when I enter those, but usually just try and avoid round numbers and just a little bit of wiggle room. I don't have like a set amount. It's just a gut feeling at that point. But I always, that 115 is basically, that's where I'm allowing the price to get to. But from there, I don't really want the price to go much past that. If so, I just lose faith in it, basically. Let me catch up on a little bit of chat here. Adrian says, to be honest, the 1 hour price action looks like shit, and artificial hold bodies doesn't make sense anymore. Feels like the market makers are even struggling. Let me check the 1 hour you said. So the 1 hour did have that Stuber fib. I know a couple of us, I'm actually going to just erase some shit because it's bugging me. I know there was a bunch of us looking at this Stuber fib. Was that yesterday? I think that was yesterday. And although I never did play the long, it totally played out, right? We ended up, well, you would have got 3 entries. It's hard to say if you would have got the 3rd one, but like I said, depending how much you front run by, definitely hit the first target. And again, it's hard to say if I would have actually hit my 2nd there because I do front run my targets a little bit. But yeah, I never did take that long, but it was on some people's radar. That's on the 1 hour, but there was also people looking at it on the 15-minute chart because the AI charting tools were actually showing, or was it the 1 hour? Yeah, it was the 1 hour that I was looking at that. Yeah, the AI charting tools pivot points also lined up with that, right? So that would have technically played out. That indicator currently showing, if we wanted to pull a bearish fib from this lower high, we would have something like that. It's a bit of a life hack, and it's not going to work out every time, you guys. Sometimes these signals lose. Trade setups lose, right? No trade setup is going to be 100%. But this is another one that I like when you get these pivot points, just like that bullish one from down here. Hey, higher low, I'll pull a bullish one because a higher low. Hey, here we have a lower high, so pulling a bearish one. The price got down to this level, so there's my fib pull. Yeah, obviously a couple of entries would have been hit already, but you can see where the obvious reaction happens. Actually, in fact, I would say it technically already played out once because it got so close to the 0.5 fib here. And that's the thing, right? Just because it happened fast doesn't mean that it wasn't worth playing, right? If anything, that means that was quick money had you ended up playing that short and started taking scalp profits there. But yeah, that's just a little bit of a life hack. Like I said, it's not going to work every time, but especially when you throw in a little additional confluence to that kind of thing. Because here, for example, I would consider this a higher high and a higher high, and that therefore would be my higher low. So I would also be interested in pulling a fib like that. And the fact that the AI charting tools maps out those pivot points, it's agreeing with that statement, right? There's a very good chance that the ALGO master would have printed the same bullish Stuber fib at that point. I don't know if it did or not, but there's a very good chance that it did. What is it saying on the 1 hour? It's actually still pulling a fib from the higher resistance. So that's the thing. Even if this guy does end up breaking and we go up higher, there is still more resistance there, right? And And that basically goes up very close to the 4-hour 886. So here's something that I should bring up, just because I know a lot of you guys here with me probably do use the ALGO master and like to check out the auto fibs like that. This is an example where it's invalidated, right? I would not consider these a valid fib pull because it has been broken, right? The swing is from here to here, and this is obviously broken. So they take a while to refresh and something like that. Like, it's not picking up the one that I am yet. I don't know if it will. It might have different criteria. But that's also where it's important, right? If these things, let's say you're hoping to rely on the auto ones, for example, this is a case where, you know, it's not picking it up. But if you know how the structure works for a Stuber fib, you can catch them for your with your own eye, kind of a thing, or spot them earlier, because maybe we already get the test and we end up going down here and then it ends up printing the fib change. Who knows, right? But it's good to be able to spot them yourself, be able to spot when they've been invalidated. And just using them. Again, I like to use structure myself and then look at indicators for confluence. So same thing, right? If I pull a fib and then I turn on that indicator and it has the same fib pulled, there's a very good chance that it's going to play out. And I just, you know, that's just another checkpoint for me when looking at taking a position, basically. Eyeing up a Brett Stuber. JB, you are looking at a bearish one, and that is on the 30-minute. I guess I can look at whatever time frame I want. I'll see the same structure. BloFin chart. Or you're on the 30-minute. I'm going to look at the 15-minute. But same thing, right? This was an obvious pivotal point because we have broke. You know, that would have been the micro break. Tyler, if you're still here with me, this would be exactly what I was talking about with the micro structure break, this kind of thing. Notice we have this high, higher high. That is where the trend broke. And look at this, you guys. So you get the structure break. And then when we have our fib pull, when we eventually get back to that 786, 886, look at that. We end up hitting our first target very quick, second target very quick. And that's why I like to leave some run and take profits as it goes, basically, right? So that is an obvious reversal point. That is where we got the bearish trend shift. This, well, I guess technically right here would have been a bullish one, right? Because we had our low, lower low, lower high. Or sorry, a little higher than the first one that I first said. And then if we pull a fib from that structure break, actually there we would have got one. We would have got a pull back to that fib there. And then as well, as we kept going, we got the same setup again, and both targets were hit there as well, right? Now at this point, we do have a slightly higher high. We could pull something like this if we are going to go to the downside. However, if we end up keep climbing here, this is the fib that you are looking at on the 30-minute. This is the 15-minute, but that's just personal preference. But same structure. That is the fib pull that you're looking at. And yeah, I agree with that. If we're going to keep climbing, resistance would start kind of up at like 03725 BloFin chart, depending what exchange you're on. But yeah, that's a nice one. Let's see, ALGO Master. Oh, that's one that was invalidated already and much lower anyways. I want to check out the 30-minute. I wonder if that would have it. Nope, that one either. That one actually currently has that bearish one. I don't agree with this. Although it's very possible, and you know, we do have this potential little swing fail here, whatever. I don't consider this an actual Stuber fib because this low was not lower than this low. So this is not actually my lower high. Again, it's very possible it plays out, but it's just slightly different than the actual structure that I use. But yeah, there's still a good chance it does. Whatever, it's tight invalidation for a scalp setup on something like that. That's another thing too. You know, sometimes if it's not the perfect setup, maybe I won't start laddering in at the 786, right? Maybe I'll wait for a swing fail or just a failed break, liquidity grab, a fake out, whatever you want to call it, right? Or if, you know, and there's so many ways because everyone has their own risk tolerance and that sort of thing. If you are more tight with risk, you don't want to take very large losses, which well, nobody should want to take large losses, but everyone has different risk appetite, right? So a lot of people will want to start laddering in heavier down here. I personally don't. I like to keep my risk tight, so I like to, if anything, I have my lighter orders set at the 786, 886 and my heavier ones up higher just to help really pull that average entry up if it's a short. Obviously pull it down if it's a long. But people who do want tighter risk, you know, maybe just entering like a quarter at the 786 and 3/4 of it waiting to see if you get a swing fail, for example, just as added confluence, but you want to make sure you get something into it just in case. You know, everyone has their own ways that they're going to trade things. We could have the same indicators, same fibs, the same structure, same trend lines, same everything, and I guarantee we're going to trade a little different, right? Everyone has their own things. This is just kind of how I like to trade them. So yeah, there's ways that you can, you know, modify it to fit how you like to trade as well, right? Look for your own additional confluences when looking for these setups near those levels, right? It's just that I don't start looking for trade setups until we get to those levels. That's basically my thing. But sometimes, you know, if markets are feeling a little riskier or whatever, it's okay to wait for additional confluence. It's okay to miss a trade. There's going to be more, right? Trendmaster on FARTCOIN 5 minutes still going to the downside here. Actually, what was that saying with Brett? There is a buy signal on the 30 minute. I usually am more of a 5 minute guy, so let's check this out. Yeah, so we have higher trending sell signals, higher trending buy signals. So yeah, I would like to see the price push up a little higher. Hopefully nail that fib. I'm probably not going to open another trade. I've already got a few on the go here. I shouldn't say that. I might. Yeah, the fact that the Algo Master, see, this is one of those times where rather than just using indicators to get into trade setups, this is a way that I would consider it a little bit of risk management that, hey, there's this lower high here that I would love to pull a fib off of. And to be fair, it may have worked out, right? That may be where we've topped out so far. But if you're a little tighter with risk management and that sort of thing, that's where you could wait for, you know what? I'm going to wait until we get to the top of the range rather than trying to play the smaller range inside the range, because that's the thing. Depending what kind of a time frame you're looking at, that's where I can pick out so many different little Stuber fib pulls, like so many that aren't even worth trading just because they're so small and stuff like that. But you see it all over the place. But that's the thing, right? No, basically, depending what size or what time frame you're on, it's going to change what size the ranges are that you're trading. And, you know, if you see a very small Stuber fib setup, for example, and you think to yourself, okay, I'm entering at the 786, 886, but oh, the 0.5 and the 214 was so close, I'm not taking profits here. And then you end up getting stopped out after that and then blame the strategy. Well, maybe you're just playing a range so small that you weren't actually willing to play that range and you ignored the rules, basically, right? So everyone was okay with trading different time frames, different size setups, because yeah, everyone has their own trade styles, right? But yeah, there's always smaller ranges inside bigger ranges, which are inside bigger ranges and bigger ranges, etc., right? MDX algo. So here's something, is that retail is shockingly half and half, very evenly divided on the long short. Usually when there's euphoria there, we start to see getting closer to like 70% and that sort of thing for long. And right now it is still quite low. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I don't know for sure which way the market's going to go, but luckily for us, when you have structured trade setups, when you actually take profits along the go while you are in trades and updating stop losses and stuff, you can be wrong and you can still make money. That's the great thing about trading. Chaos, let me just see what you posted here. Liquidation confluence with fart liquidations. Interesting. So I haven't used that before, but is that saying then that there's a ton of liquidations around 91.5 cents on FARTCOIN? So that would actually be a move to the upside. If I'm understanding that correctly, Chaos. Can you check StuCoin on the 1.367 hour time frame? Oh yeah, absolutely. I had that bookmarked. Hype. Oh, I can check out Hype for you there, Adrian. I should have had this ready for you. What time frame you looking at? Like, ooh, interesting. So here's the thing, right off the bat, the indicators make me not want to. I think it's possibly good for a short right now. It would be tight stop loss, right? But let's look at a more reasonable trend. That's a very tight one. But technically we would have lost this guy. We also, this is very, very micro analyzing, you guys, and I'm very aware of this, but we did technically go a little higher than this wick. So technically we lost structure there, and we are currently at the 786. I'm willing to short that with a tight stop loss above the highs there. Sorry, just setting orders here. Give me a sec. Yeah, we'll have to see. This is micro analyzing, but it's one of those times, guys, where it's just a nice tight stop loss, right? Setting orders. Stop loss. My stop loss is 17,333, just to keep it a little bit above. Please don't grab me as liquidity. Brett's struggling a little bit. FARTCOIN, Trendmaster still giving us resistance here. My FARTCOIN positions, I'm actually going to bump my stop loss to a small profit just because at that point we would end up breaking this trend here. I am leaving a little bit of wiggle room past this just because there could be a little break of this. But yeah, I don't want to take a loss on those positions anymore at this point. I can always re-enter later if we do get that bearish Stuber in that purple box there. Now I don't have to worry about them, but I am hoping that this just serves as resistance, right? Because we have the lower trending sell signals on the 5-minute here. I'm hoping that this actually just pushes the price down aggressively and I can start taking profits again, hopefully. Bitcoin still kind of struggling the same level. Like I said, I still think it's possible this plays out here, but the indicator is still pointing out that larger one. 4 hours still, you know, I'll give the bulls credit. Like I said earlier, they're looking stronger than they have on previous swings, but we're still just kind of consolidating below resistance. It's not like we, you know, got above resistance and started consolidating. I feel much different about it that we're consolidating below resistance. So maybe we get a push up, but as it stands, resistance is resistance until it's broken, and that 786 so far is being a real bitch, so it is what it is. Stucoin. Oh, that sucks. Just reading some of the chat. I won't get into that on the old live stream here, but hit me up with a message if you guys ever need. Adrian, Trader StuTube, quit taking my trades. We'll see. You know, I just love taking your trades because then I can just blame you. We've been over this. It's all your fault if I lose this hype trade. Hashtag blame Adrian. Stu, basically you do market structure from high to high or low to low to figure out the swing low or the swing high. If I'm understanding that correctly, yes. For example, if this is my high and this is my higher high, I'm using that information to say, well, what's the higher low is the lowest point between the two. So although there was all these, a lot of people would consider them higher highs, I don't consider them that because this is what the actual structure was. This is my confirmed higher low, right? So even at this point, like this isn't confirmed a higher high, even though it's higher than this, right? You can see with my cursor line here, this high is slightly higher, but since we have not since broke this high, this is not confirmed. It's assumed it was a long position or it's a support level, right? But it's just assuming you're going to get a higher low there technically with this structure backing it up. But once we set another higher high, that's where we can then pull a fib from this level, because that would be our confirmed higher low. Do I look at alt Stubers on other exchanges like Binance as hype on MEXC invalidated over the 115 now? Typically, I just look at whatever chart that I'm personally trading. Yeah, sometimes it's going to happen where there is differences between exchanges, right? I honestly don't trade altcoins all that much, period. I mostly trade Bitcoin. But when I take trades not with my Stuber fibs, how do I determine your take profits? Really depends how or why I took a position, I guess. I would say a microstructure break is always a good idea. Like, let's say I just enter here, let me just do my own thing here. Let's just say this is the 5 minute and the price does something like this. And then we get back here. Let's call that my Stuber fib entry. And let's just say I'm looking at a long position. I don't know where I'm going to take profits. Let's see how close I was with that eyeball. Yeah, boom. So let's say I took a long there, but it wasn't actually based off of a Stuber fib. But let's just say that is where I ended up taking the long. What I will often do is I will then zoom in a time frame. Like if this was the 5 minute chart, I would look at the 1 minute chart, and as soon as we got something like, let's say I get into a long position here, let's say the 1 minute starts doing something like this, and then it does something like that. So notice we would have our high, higher high, higher low, and then whoops. And then let's say that we ended up breaking below it like that. That would be a sign for me that maybe it's time to at least close quarter or half my position or whatever. And then that way, even if the price ends up just doing something like this and keeps going higher and then does it again, then I can take some more profits, right? So I can basically chase the market structure with a partial order. Like I like to use trigger orders. For example, just like this, right? If we were trending to the upside and when I notice that we're up here, hey, we have a new high, right? High, higher, high. This should be my higher low. I'm going to set a partial trigger order down here so that if we end up breaking that structure, then I'm going to lock in some more profits. That is one key way that I love to take profits on positions, if it's not Stuber based or I don't have my Fibonacci's or that sort of thing. Also, like I was talking about earlier with indicators, let's just say that, you know, an indicator puts up an opposite signal from, let's say I'm in a long and the trend master prints a sell signal, for example. Well, maybe it's time to take some profits, because like I said, indicators don't always have to be forcing yourself into more positions. They can also be used for taking profits, avoiding risky setups, and that sort of thing as well, right? Blame me. Yep. Look where hype is struggling, eh? What's the 4 hour looking like on old hype here? Oh, we definitely never got that one prediction we were hoping for. We still might get that. Can you imagine if the short gave us that? I know, was that last week we must have been talking about this, Adrian? Yeah, I would love to see something like this. honestly. This purple box is going to have to move at this point. That was all theoretical at the time and we never got it, but now it would look something like this. I would love to play that long. For one, we broke this downtrend that had multiple exact touch points. I'm pretty picky with my diagonal trend lines. So the fact that we broke that trend line, I would love to see Stuber fib pull back at some point. Not just that trend line breaking, but also the classic horizontal structure break, right? Technically, right here is where it would have... Oh, God, that was a terrible horizontal line. Technically, that is where we broke structure. Again, this is going to seem like microanalyzing, but again, just to show you how powerful this kind of thing is, right? Is right here we got our bounce, and then we went slightly lower. So this is technically where we broke structure. We even retested it there perfectly. Call it microanalyzing if you want. I'm the one calling it that. But just to show you how well it is actually respected, right? So at that point you'd start pulling a fib if you're looking for that bullish retest. And yeah, it hasn't happened. It doesn't always happen, but this is one of those setups that if we get that pullback, I would love to start looking for longs on some shorter time frames in this level. On BTC 1 hour, let me one thing at a time here. 1 hour, let's just erase everything here, remove some indicators. Okay, here we go. April 15th, 1400. Where's April 15th? $1,400 plus one. Okay, so you're talking about this. That's actually where I did take a short. You are talking about right here. So right when this candle closed right here. Yes, I will. That's actually, so that happened on the 5 minute, and that is why I took a short at the start of February and still have that partial position running from 101.6, is because that structure happened on the 5 minute and I wasn't sure I would get the Stuber fib pullback. So I knew I wanted a hedge. I was actually long at the time and I was just looking at it as a hedge position. And I knew so that since it was a hedge especially, I wasn't looking at it as risk, more so preventing risk. So I immediately took a short on structure like that on the 5 minute. And I mean, oh, this is the chart. Never mind. But yeah, it was totally that kind of structure. And yes, if that structure breaks, then at least you have your stop loss just above your current high at that point. Or what I'll do is I'll just enter part of a position, right? And then hope to get some sort of a pullback. Like at that point, I would start chasing the price basically, hoping for a pullback to that level. So yeah, I totally see reason for that. One thing to be cautious in a situation like that is obviously, so this is the high and the higher high, even though it is just a... Like the reason why I'm giving this a lot of credit as well is because this was a bit of a swing fail, right? We got the liquidity grab. We never got a candle close above this. It was a swing fail. So at that point, I'm giving more credit to this structure breaking. But as far as actual structure, this was not the loss of a higher low, right? Because if this was my higher high, this was my higher low. But that being said, looking at it from an order block point of view, something like that, same thing, right? And that actually played out with a perfect flip as well, just using this red candle back here, depending if you want to include the wicks or just the candle body. But the candle body was actually perfectly accurate there for the retest there. So yeah, there, I totally see what you're getting at there, why there could be a nice short there. And that is basically, I gotta reload my chart here. Get my positions back. Oh god, now I'm on FARTCOIN. What is going on here? So that's actually notice where one of my shorts is from, or very close, I'm guessing. What day was that? April. Yeah, basically that swing fail was why I ended up taking that short there. So I actually entered before we ended up breaking that level you're talking about, because I was looking at that as more of a swing fail than anything. But yeah, totally. I see what you're talking about there. And yeah, I see reason. Just understand that that's one of those times if you wanted to tighten up your risk, you can take the trade because, hey, if you're looking at this as the structure and it broke, yeah, if you want to start a position, but if you want to reduce some risk, split that order up and ladder it in on the way up. So if you do get a bounce, if you get stopped out for one, your average entry would be much higher at that point. So your stop loss would be, or your loss would be significantly lower, right? BNB 1 hour. I will check this. Sorry, I just want to keep my eye on hype here. Still struggling with that level, hey? And that's the thing, guys. Even if this does blast to the upside, you can just see that there's an obvious reaction from these fibs. Even when it does get invalidated, it's so often that you get some sort of a pause at that level, just because the market loves testing those after a structure break like this. BNB 1 hour. On Femix. Oh, there was a beautiful short on that. Obviously, it's going to be Captain Hindsight here. But here, we technically had our highs. Higher high. We broke that structure. No matter how you look at it, this whole range here, we obviously ended up losing that. And then as we pull back, and everybody starts getting FOMO thinking that, we're going higher because look at that recovery. Notice where it ends up getting stopped, right? The thing to say about that from the bullish perspective is that may have already played out, right? Because we've hit both Stuber targets. Since, I mean, we've tested the 786, 886 fib pocket several times. And we have hit the 0.5 fib and the 214 fib. So maybe that move has already played out. But the trend would be to the downside because we have this pivotal point here. So I'm just going to put this resistance up here. If we end up continuing to drop, if the downtrend here is going to continue from that little play out, I mean, it's very possible that we come all the way down something like this. I think that will largely depend what happens with Bitcoin, but it is a possibility. Oh, sorry, that's the 5 minute. You asked for the 1 hour. I thought I was still on the 1 hour. My bad. I mean, 1 hour, this trend would have been broken here because we had our high, higher low. I don't know if we even got a Stuber fib pull. No. Technically, there was one here. Again, Captain Hindsight, but actually, we're kind of there right now, right? We have, here, one sec. We have our low, lower low, lower high. So although it's not the top of the swing, it is the top of the micro downtrend, right? Because this is my lower high on the trend. The thing is, if this gets invalidated, there is still resistance up here because this was the actual pivotal point of where this downswing started. But yes, if the downtrend's if the bears are going to remain in full control, this whole level right here would be perfect for a reversal to the downside again. See if any indicators agree. Actually have that lower high, lower low confluence with the AI charting tools. So another reason why I think that is a valid fib pull. Would have been nice to see this, you know, 6 hours ago or so, because then you could have laddered in the 786, 886, and the 1. You would have hit all 3 entries. So you could have pulled your average entry a little higher than if you were to enter right now. Short from 590. Okay, so right around here. So yeah, right in the middle of the pocket, right? I see reasons for that. This is one of those things, since there is this lower high signal here, I don't know if I would necessarily leave my stop loss way up here. With this indicator confluence, I'm more likely to tighten up my stop loss a little bit, because so often if we break that lower high, then we're going to be testing the full range again, right? So we'd have something like that. So you could possibly try reladdering in, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, I see what you're looking at there. If that's, I guess, if that's what you're looking at. But yeah, there's definitely resistance here. Whether or not it gets broken, I mean, that's trading, right? Sometimes it gets invalidated, but yeah, that's a valid setup to me. Adrian, safe travels, buddy. I am also going to be taking off here right away. I have a birthday to go to and drinks to be had, so have yourself a good Easter. Ooh, Cause, nice to see you here. I will check out Litecoin. I haven't looked at Litecoin for a while. I am going to look on BloFin. What do we got here? Trendmaster indicator. Well, a very obvious on the 1 hour lower sell signal. Oh, beautiful. Look at that resistance hold. Look at that dump. See, that's where I really like to see. I mean, obviously it's not going to work out every time, but so often that is great confluence. For example, you get that lower sell signal, and look what happened when that resistance kicked in. Just absolutely dumped it. So here we kind of have the same thing, right? We have another lower sell signal, and we're trading right around that resistance. So basically, if the bears are going to remain in total control, I definitely wouldn't want to see this high broken, but honestly, even just a little wiggle room above this guy. If the bears are going to remain in full control, I wouldn't really expect Litecoin to go back above 77. Again, even if it does, there is still this potential Stuber setup, I guess. But yeah, basically, if we broke above this resistance, basically where we've topped since our previous lower sell signal here, kind of the structure going with that. If we break this level, then I think it's very likely that we're just going to end up testing quite a bit higher. I mean, we'd have more resistance back here, but really, I think we would end up shooting quite a bit higher if that's if this level's broken. I guess we'll have to see. What's the ALGO master saying? It actually printed that Stuber fib that I just mentioned. So yeah, maybe we do get a little bit of a bounce here. Because I guess the thing is, even, actually I wouldn't really want to see us print a higher buy signal. That would be one of those times where I would use the indicator as risk management and consider if there's a higher buy signal that prints, I would be less likely to take the short setup, or at least maybe downsize the position if nothing else. But so far it's still a lower sell, right? So yeah, we still have resistance here, and honestly, I don't know if we're going to get up to this Stuber fib with this resistance kicking in on this indicator here. If we end up dumping from here, obviously some support to watch for would be something like this. What else? What else? FARTCOIN still struggling with this same resistance. Brett still hanging out. Hype. Well, in one of my positions. Let me just check here. Yeah, one of my positions closed. I still got one open here. Or wait a second. Perfect. Yeah, so one of my positions already TP'd at the 0.5 here, right where we're at right now. So Adrian, great call, buddy. There's our Stuber fib. We hit the first target. Second target will be just shy of the 214, and the third one from there, I'm just going to see what happens. Just a typical Stuber fib setup for you guys, live in action there for you. Bitcoin on the 1 hour, yeah, still struggling a little bit. What's the 5 minute looking like? Yeah, still struggling with that Stuber fib that I mentioned this morning and yesterday. 4 hour, oh, that's the 1 hour. Weekly, yeah, guys, Sunday's gonna be an interesting weekly close. I don't know how I'm gonna feel, honestly. If we end up closing the candle like this with the RSI higher than my trend line, yeah, I have to give credit where credit is due, and that will at least be finally one of my bearish signs invalidated. I still have several, but at least I'm starting to see a turn of, starting to see some strength coming out of the bulls at that point. USD to the JPY the other day, and don't know if it was just the period you were back testing, but it was loving the 786. Honestly, man, like Forex, stocks, I don't trade stocks and Forex, but I still look at the charts quite often, or other people will ask me to look at charts, whatever. Yeah, you're right. I see those levels come up all the time. If anything, honestly, in Forex, it might be more accurate because there's so much money moving in the Forex market that it would be very hard to persuade the market to not respect basic technicals. But that's just my opinion anyways. Like I said, I just don't trade Forex, so maybe I'm wrong about that, but I could absolutely see that being a thing. Anyways, legends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over this evening with this stream. So hopefully you guys did find this useful or helpful or entertaining, or hopefully all of those things. But yeah, also for those of you guys watching this on my YouTube channel a little bit later, it will be uploaded in a couple hours here. If you want access to the MDX algo indicators and Discord, there's a link in the description down below. I've also got a fairly new private Telegram channel where I share some trade ideas, scalp setups, Stuber fib levels, and my general thoughts on the market in general. Place to kind of keep all my thoughts together. It's completely free for people who trade on BloFin using my new sign up link and following the steps, which are in the description down below. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.